Hello? Test, test. Anybody there? Testing, testing. Can anyone hear me? Okay. There's someone. Hello, Marku. You know what I need to do? I need to... Oh, God. I hate... This is the first time this has ever happened to me. Back in buffering. Oh, God. It's still choppy? Okay. Well... Still choppy on my end, too. Oh, dang it. I'm getting poor service and everything. Oh, man! Sucks. Totally sucks. Well, I would hate to end stream here, but I feel like I need to. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stream again tomorrow to do I'm gonna do part 2 tomorrow. So I'm gonna delete this VOD for part 2. And then I'm going to make a new waiting room for tomorrow for part 2. And hopefully it'll get its shit sorted by then. Okay. Dang it. Well. Sorry we had to do that, such an awkward ending like that. I'm getting excellent connection now, though. Might be a bandwidth issue. I don't think so. I'm the only one on the service. Literally the only thing connected right now is like this computer and my phone. That's it. But I have excellent connection now. How does it look now? Maybe it's a temporary thing. Yeah, but you never know. You never know. It's smooth for now. Okay. God, I hate to. I had to end and all the viewership just disappeared. It sucks. That's okay. Basically, I lost Rosa's raid. That's what I lost. I think. Okay, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and keep going, and if it does it again, then we'll just schedule it to tomorrow. We'll reschedule it to tomorrow. Okay, let me get this out of the way. I'm not gonna listen to an almost 8-minute video about Tractor Supply Company going woke. But I think we get the gist here. CEO Hal Lawton puts his account to private. Bragged in one of their yearly reports that they donated more than $570,000 to DEI. Isn't a lot, honestly. Tractor Supply thinks kids can be trans, and they support it by the looks of this. How many of their customers know this? Let's see. Okay, so that's what happened. Basically, in a nutshell, Tractor Supply went woke. So, as an update to that, they basically said we're reversing everything. And they went nuclear. They went nuclear on the DEI shit. Tractor Supply Company released a statement today announcing that they were ending several of the controversial initiatives and refocusing on their customers and mission, including redirecting funds from non-business activities like pride parades and voting campaigns to instead focus on rural American priorities, including agricultural education, animal welfare, and veterans causes. Yeah, that makes sense. That actually makes sense for a Tractor Supply Company to be funding. The chain also announced that they would be ending all DEI initiatives while still ensuring a respectful environment. That's all it ever should have been. Just be respectful. That's literally as far as it ever should have gone. And with withdrawing carbon emissions goals, which again, that it's that smorgasbord. It's that boilerplate, list of policies that once if you have one, you have all the others. And like again, withdrawing carbon emissions, what the fuck did that have to do with DEI? It's just a part of the package. It's a part of the leftist, shit lib DEI package. Because climate justice is a thing apparently. Focus on our land and water conservation efforts. Again, land and water conservation for a farming company. That makes sense. Holy shit! Who'd have thunk it? We work hard to live up to our mission and values every day and represent the values of the communities and customers we serve. We have heard from customers that we have disappointed them. We have taken this feedback to heart. Let's read this statement. Let's see here. Okay, so this is the statement here. I don't know if you can see the whole thing. Let me modify the window here so you can see the whole thing. There we go. I need to edit it. Go this way too. Image. It's not a page, so I can't scroll down on it. There we go. That's the whole thing. I don't mind if they wanted to say have a goal of reducing their carbon emissions for support reduction, etc., but they don't need to ban it. I don't have a problem with making coal power plants more clean burning. I do have a problem with shutting them down because it isn't clean. Yeah, and that's the thing about the whole environmental agenda. Like, I'm for that too. Like, I'm for recycling and reducing pollution and emissions and this and that and the other thing. But the way that they do it is always like absolutely devastating to like everything that it touches. Like you need like because you have to remember that the a lot of these climate initiatives, a lot of them are basically trying to follow like the UN's like 2030 agenda, which is like at this point the UN is so off the rails as it's pretty much just a communist organization, that they don't even have like it's not even net zero. It's not even net zero anymore to the UN. It's absolute zero now, which is where like you can't like offset emissions. You have to have zero in the first place. It's like because that's the thing. Like, okay, we can do this little thing, and that will improve pollution. That will improve emissions or reduce emissions and that kind of stuff. Yay, great. But then there's another thing, and then there's another thing, and another thing, and another thing, and it never fucking stops. And at a point, it gets to a point where like we can't do business anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of where a lot of these companies are at. We're like, if we do what we would need to do to be in line or to follow or to meet these 2030 climate control goals, we would basically just have to shut down our business completely. And so like a lot of them are just like, yeah, we can't do this. We can't do this anymore. I support nuclear power plants, but I also support natural gas power plants in certain areas. Like a lot of Cali has natural gas deposits that will leak if not used. Yeah, exactly. Like I say, like use the technology that's available to you in the best way possible. Like it's really that simple. Like the hesitation for nuclear energy is appalling to me. Like, because like 10 years ago, they were like, but it'll take 10 years to build that nuclear power plant. We're not going to do it because it takes too long. It's like, well, if you had done it, now we would have that nuclear power plant. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, like, everybody, when it comes to nuclear power, everybody thinks like 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima, and those are the 3 that everybody think of. It's just like all 3 of those were operating on fucking ancient technology. Like, the technology that they use in nuclear power plants today is so far and beyond safer than what those 3 disasters were operating under. Like, I think people are just like extremely ignorant towards nuclear power. They have no clue how actually incredibly safe it actually is, especially when you compare it to like when you expand the operation of a power plant to also include all of the transport of material and people to and from the facility on a daily basis, and also the mining operations that it takes to produce the fuel that the various power plants use. Nuclear, when you add those into the equation, nuclear is way safer than any other power source. And it's a blowout. It's not even close how much safer it is. Like, people just don't have a clue. I actually think that that's starting to turn around. Like, I know that, like, didn't a bunch of nuclear power plants like just get commissioned to get built here in the United States? Something like that happened. I can't remember what, but I think that the stigma of nuclear is going away, which thank God. But anyway, let's get back to Tractor Supply. So this was released on the 27th, which was 2 days ago. For more than 85 years, Tractor Supply has been focused on one thing: serving life out here. Every day, our 50,000 team members take care of our customers like family. We deeply value our relationship with our customers and the communities we call home. We are passionate about being good neighbors in our hometowns because without you, we'd not be what we are. It is imperative to us that our customers' hard-earned dollars are taken care of, our team members and the communities we all love. As you supported us, we have invested millions of dollars in veteran causes, emergency response, animal shelters, state fairs, rodeos, and farmers markets. We also have invested in the future of rural America. We are the largest supporter of FFA, I don't know what that is, and have long-standing relationship with 4-H, don't know what that is, and other educational organizations. Well, we work hard to live up to our mission and values every day and represent the values of the communities and customers we serve. You've literally already said all that. We have heard from customers that we have disappointed them. No, you haven't disappointed them. You have infuriated them. We have taken this feedback to heart. Going forward, we will ensure our activities and giving tie directly to our business. Giving tie directly? Oh, okay, got it. Our activities and giving tie directly to our business. For instance, this means we will 1. No longer submit data to the Human Rights Campaign. Good. That way they can't give their bullshit strong arm. Because they do a lot of these organizations like HRC, the LGBTQIA, like the Pink News and these kinds of organizations. They have like these bullshit indexes that like indicate like how much that company like supports their particular cause, and they use these indexes to basically extort the businesses into doing their bidding. And a lot of but the thing is that the way that these companies get the index scores is they submit all of their information to the organizations. So if all of the companies just stop reporting all of the information to the organizations that come up with these bullshit woke indexes, all the indexes would go away because they would literally have no numbers to calculate with. Refocus our team member engagement groups on mentoring, networking, and supporting the business. I mean, the fact that that was defocused is fucking insane. Further focus on rural American priorities, including agriculture, education, animal welfare, veteran causes, and being a good neighbor, and stop sponsoring non-business activities like pride festivals and voting campaigns. Yes, thank you. Eliminate DEI roles and retire our current DEI goals while still ensuring a respectful environment. Again, it's all we ask for. Just respect. That's it. That's as far as it ever should have gone. Withdraw our carbon emission goals and focus on our land and water conservation efforts. Nice. That's beautiful. Needed to dissolve the DEI council too. We will continue to listen to our customers and team members. Your trust and confidence in us are of the utmost importance, and we don't take that lightly. As we look forward to celebrating our nation's independence, we also celebrate over 50,000 team members across 2,200 stores. Rural communities are the backbone of our nation and what make America great. We are honored to be a part of them. We're always here and ready to serve you and your family. See, this is the actually a really good corporate response, because this the first two paragraphs, yes, are just bullshit corpo speak. But the fact that they list out specifics, like we don't submit data to the HRC anymore. You know, these are very specific things. That's not corpo speak. That's like actual plain English statements and commitments to action. That is extremely rare from corporate environments these days. And the fact that this happened at, what was it, like 72 hours, less than 72 hours after the initial hullabaloo blew up online about it, because they've been engaging in this shit for a while now. Because the Twitter thread, let's see here, this Twitter thread, one of the most beloved brands, what are they really doing? How Lawton, you know, see, this goes all the way back like during COVID. They've been doing this shit for years, and it blew up. This post was done on June 6th. Okay, so maybe not 72 hours, but still, this was done on June 27th. So 3 weeks? You know, it took three weeks later, and they completely annihilated all of their DEI shit. That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I'm actually happy with the response if they actually do it. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you have to hold these, because that's the thing. Like, people are absolutely disgusted by this shit. It is actually amazing to me. It is so amazing because like it's so obvious that like the general public despises this shit. So it actually amazes me that there are still companies out there that will proclaim like new DEI related shit that they're doing to the public, like it's gonna paint them in a good light. It's like, how tone deaf and detached do you have to be to think that? And it's simple. It's because it's ideological capture. That's what it is. So the fact that they did this in 3 weeks is phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. So yeah, it's like we actually got a win on the DEI front. But honestly, I would not be surprised. I don't think that we're going to see this level of effort and being forthwith and upfront with, you know, the public is not going to be common. But I think that a lot of the stuff will start happening just behind the scenes. Like, you won't announce it, but you'll see like the HRC will announce that like on their Twitter that like a company like is no longer giving them numbers, stuff like that. But the company itself won't make a statement. They'll just kind of softly behind the scenes doing similar shit. Because at this point, this shit is dangerous for their bottom line. And it's like, okay, we're ideologically driven, not business driven. You know, it's like, okay, well, the problem though is that at a point, you make yourself at risk of neglecting your fiduciary duties to your shareholders, and that is where companies can get into serious trouble. Because the moment that a company is clearly acting against the interests of its shareholders, it will suffer and lose against a massive class action lawsuit against the company. And it will, and I think that's where companies are kind of seeing the trajectory of this shit, because people are like, as a group, more and more like rejecting companies that engage in this kind of bullshit, to the point where it's hurting their bottom line, to the point where it's becoming a risk of class action shareholder lawsuit. And this is the right way to do it, is what Tractor Supply here did it. Yeah, they gave like 4 sentences of corpo speak, and then they said this is a succinct, clear, actionable list of things that we are going to do to reverse this. This is a great way to do it, and this is a great way to avoid becoming the next Bud Light. It really is. It's like, yeah, we were doing this thing, and we actually heard you, and we're listening to you, and we're not going to do the thing anymore. And these are the actions we are going to take, line by line, to show you that we're not going to do the thing anymore. You know, it's not any more complicated than that. When I see rainbow shit on stores, I go, Ezra, yep, me too. If I see anything like a rainbow on a store, especially during Pride Month, I just keep driving. The companies never hear from me. I just walk away. And that's the thing that a lot of these companies are like. Bud Light realized this, like, because Bud Light actually did, for the most part, reverse course for the most part. But the thing is that once apathy sets in with customers, you are not going to get them back. You could say, even if a company says, we're sorry, we never should have sucked that guy's dick, we're going to suck your dick again instead, like we always have, you know, even if that happens, the customer is going to be, no, I've already reset my routine with this other company, and you have shown yourself to be untrustworthy. Why in the fuck would I believe anything you say? You know? So it's like, these companies are realizing that you can't, it's really difficult to win customers back, basically. Now, Tractor Supply, I think that because of the swiftness and the straightforwardness of this response, they will get their customers back. I think they will, because you have to do this kind of stuff. And the thing is, if they renege on any of these individual points, like if we find out in 3 months that their DEI roles are still there, they're done. They're fucking done. Like, the tolerance level among the public for this kind of shit when it comes to companies is extremely low, and it's going down. And it's, you know what I mean? Like, these businesses are basically entering FAFO territory, and they're finding out. Now, Tractor Supply, I think, it's going to be one of the few companies that actually dodges it. But companies going forward, if they don't start ditching this shit fast, it's going to hurt. I might accept the classic LGBT flag if appropriate. The conservative pride flag, which is literally just like the rainbow, and that's it. New inclusive LGBT flag, hell no. Yeah, I don't even deal with the conservative pride flag. It's like, no. It's like, why are you celebrating a group of people because of what they like to stick their dick inside of? Like, that's fucking insane. And the fact that you're spending time and effort and money on it is a travesty. And any business that engages in such ludicrous and unprofessional behavior doesn't deserve to stay in business. Period. But I have people telling them why they are leaving. Most customers leave simply and never say anything. Yeah, exactly. For every customer that expresses why they're leaving, that customer represents at least 1,000 customers that just leave without saying anything. You know, I'm that way. I never, proclaim when I'm like changing brands or moving to a different company for this, that, or that, this service. I never do that. I just do it. You know what I mean? I practically never speak out about that kind of shit. And so like for every one person that does, there's 1,000 people that don't. So many are telling the company why, so many more aren't saying anything. Yeah, exactly. Because this is the thing. Like, I think that also a lot of people are realizing that a lot of their routine that they thought that pre-pandemic that they thought was necessary, they've realized during the pandemic when they weren't allowed to engage in said routine, realize that they don't actually need to engage in that routine. I think a lot of people have realized that a lot of the things that they used to do that they considered to be necessary for their lifestyle, they have now realized aren't actually necessary. And so a lot of people, I think the majority of people, are finding it easier and easier and easier to drop services, to drop companies, to drop products. And so people have become much, 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 much more fickle when it comes to what they, who and what they put their money towards. And companies need to realize that really fast, because the people are fed the fuck up, especially when you compound just basic apolitical economic issues on top of that. When you compound the fact that, like, you know, a typical meal from Taco Bell or McDonald's is like 300% of what it cost pre-pandemic. When the cost of a gallon of milk at a grocery store is like $5.50 instead of $2.50 like it was before the pandemic, you know, when you add that financial burden on top of the sentiment of much more a larger portion of people's daily dollar spend is actually not necessary, companies need to wise up really fast if they want to survive and not take a massive hit. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a ton of companies like fast food restaurants and shit. They're fucking spiraling right now. Like thousands and thousands and thousands of fast food chains are closing all across the country. Restaurant chains are closing all across the country. It's insane how many major business chains are contracting right now because they didn't wise up to this fact. You know, so we'll see. But anyway, I think I've spoken enough about this one. Rapid inflation hitting everyone. Many of the businesses using a major brand like McDonald's are franchised out and can't afford to lower prices. Yeah, exactly. They're fucking stuck. Like, think of like the McDonald's franchisee in California who just forced a minimum wage of $20 an hour on every one of their employees. And automation, there's no way automation can catch up in time. And now they also are dealing with a very, very fickle customer. You know what I mean? That's like, you do anything, you do any kind of bullshit, I'm out, motherfuckers. You know, I will go to the grocery store and cook my own goddamn food. You know, if you engage in any kind of fucking bullshit, you know, silence brand, give me my fucking food and give it to me cheap. You know, Taco Bell is basically closing its dining room. Taco Bell is like basically phasing out the dining room, so it's going to be a drive-through only fast food chain. Because it's like, well, the dining room is like the biggest part of the restaurant. It's usually empty. We have to hire people to clean it, and it's the place where the public gets into trouble. So they save a ton of money by closing the dining area. But that just means, you know, less people to employ, less overhead, less problems with customers. It's just all around a good decision for them, you know. So yeah, you're just seeing a massive belt tightening happening right now across a ton of service industries. I keep hearing people like the quartering talking about all these companies are greedy. I guess I forgot how the companies are organized. Well, there's this thing that the government is doing where the government, to basically cover for the inflation that they've caused, they're trying to gaslight the population into believing in the thing that they're calling greedflation. Which is like companies are basically like, oh, inflation is basically causing the cost of this good to go up by 5%. But instead of upping the cost on that item to the customer by 5%, we're going to increase it by 10%. So we're going to milk the customer for just a little bit more, so that we can more than make up for the cost increase due to inflation, right? That's like the idea that they're spreading for greedflation, which honestly, it sounds really good. It does, but it also indicates an ignorance towards how these industries operate, because they don't realize that it's like, well, it's like, yeah, it's a 5% there, but it's also 5% on the all the supply chain down to the McDonald's, from the farms to the transport, everything down to there. So it's like they raise it by 10% because of a compounding price increase on these industries. And that's the thing. Like, I can't stand it. All the the leftards, stuff like that, are like, inflation is like back down to normal levels now. What are you talking about? Inflation is going down. And it's just like, motherfucker, you never deflated the massive inflation increase that happened during the pandemic. It was like 7% for like a year. And guess what? Yeah, it's 7% of an increase, which means that if the inflation rate levels off, that means we're stuck with that 7%. We don't need level low inflation. We need deflation. That's what we need, and that's not happening. So it's like prices are just always going to be higher now. Anyway, but that's again the corporate level, not the franchise level. Yeah, that's true. Which is who most affected the price raises once you expect corporate to bail them out. That's not how a franchise works. Yep, that's not how a franchise works. That is not how a franchise works. Again, I think that greedflation sounds like a good excuse, but it's not. It's just not. If you know how franchisement works. Anyway, good on Tractor Supply. I hope we see more of this in the future. I'm gonna do. What am I gonna do next? Tractor Supply. Ooh, let's do. Yes, this is a good one. Works. And this is actually a pretty big fucking deal, this one. Justice's rule for January 6th Defendant. Okay. Getting juicy. People like the Courting just keep talking about how all these fast food companies are taking advantage of the people. Sorry, that's just frustrating to hear someone that should know better. Yeah. Dude. The Courting is a midwit. I'm sorry, he just is. I like him. He seems like a good dude, and I think his mind's in the right place. But he's a midwit. he just is. Let's see. This article was updated. Okay, the Supreme Court on Friday threw out the charges against a former Pennsylvania police officer who entered the U.S. Capitol during the January 6, 2021 attacks. Okay. Yeah, a guy just walking around like looking like he was lost is an attack. By a vote of 6-3, which is okay. That's party line vote right there. The justices ruled that the law that Joseph Fisher was charged with violating, which bars obstruction of an official proceeding, applies only to evidence tampering, such as destruction of records or documents in official proceedings. Friday's ruling could affect charges against more than 300 other January 6th defendants. Yeah, this is the big one that sets a precedent that basically sets free a fuck ton of the defendants in the January 6th stuff. Because they've been trying to get them on this bullshit charge of protesting and making a ruckus is a federal crime if it's disrupting an official procedure. And it's just like, how many times have we seen that shit from the left? They fucking took over. They took over state government buildings all the fucking time during official proceedings. How is that not interrupting the proceedings? You know, like, it's such a bullshit charge. And then let's see. The same law is also at the center of 2 of the 4 charges brought by Special Counsel Jack Smith against former President Donald J. Trump in Washington, D.C. Yeah, it's another, again, dude, Jack Smith is probably like, it's the weakest case out of fucking all of them, I swear to God. They're all weak, to be honest, but yeah, the whole January 6th thing is such a, you know what it reminds me of? January 6th, like the gaslighting that the media has done towards January 6th is on the level, if not worse, than the gaslighting from the remember the Covington kids scandal, where there was like the Catholic school kids were just like chilling out on like the steps of the Capitol building or something like that, and then like a bunch of like Native American protesters like confronted them and just kind of got in their face and like beat their dumbass drums. Someone, rain, whatever the fuck they do. By the way, did you know that there's actually a radio station here in New Mexico that is literally nothing but that kind of Indian music? It's kind of amazing. Who voted what way? We'll get there. But it reminds me of like the level of gaslighting that the media did with the Covington kids. Because remember, the Covington kids, it was so egregious that they, like Nick Sandman settled for 9-figure payouts from multiple media companies, you know, because of how egregious the gaslighting and the lying was. And honestly, January 6th is on that level. That one and the Rittenhouse stuff was the other one where like the media was just egregiously lying about everything. Nathan Phillips, yeah, traditional Native American name, right? No, that is his name. You're right. And it turned out that Nathan Phillips was like a professional protester and agitator as well. It's like, yeah, and the story didn't even talk about the actually racist Hebrew. What's the black Israelite? Is that the one that's called the Black Israelites or whatever? Or it's just like, you know, there's like black supremacists who claims that they were like the original Jews or some crazy shit like that. Can't remember exactly what it is, but they were there and they were actually being racist. And that actually was completely left out of the whole story. It's fucking so ridiculous. But anyway, let's get back to this ruling. Let's see. Donald Trump. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments on the 25th of April on Trump's claims of immunity and has not yet issued its decision in that case. But Smith has argued that even if the court were to rule for Fisher, the charges against Trump could still go forward because they rested in part on efforts to use false electoral certificates at the joint session of Congress. Okay, whatever you say, Jack. The law at the center of Fisher's case is 18 blah 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 blah, which makes it a crime to otherwise obstruct, influence, or impede any official proceeding. Well, Antifa would just be fucking all in jail then, if that was the case. U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols concluded that because the previous subsection, section 1512C1, bars tampering with evidence with the intent to impair the object's integrity or availability for use in an official proceeding, that only applies to cases involving evidence tampering that obstructs an official proceeding, and he dismissed the obstruction charge against Fisher. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit reversed Nichols' ruling, concluding that the meaning of the statute is unambiguous, so that it applies to all forms of corrupt obstruction of an official proceeding other than the conduct that is already covered by the prior subsection. On Friday, the Supreme Court vacated the D.C. Circuit's decision, interpreting the law more narrowly to apply only to evidence tampering. Yeah, that's kind of been all of the shit against Trump and de facto the J6 protesters. The strategy that I'm seeing across pretty much all of them is essentially like widening the cone of influence of the laws that they're applying so that they can apply to things that they have never applied to before. Which, yeah, that seems to be like the strategy of every single DA in every single Trump case, is that they're just basically taking some bullshit law, well, actually, not bullshit law, a legitimate law, but then applying it to a bullshit thing, occurrence, essentially, that doesn't apply, that the law isn't actually meant to cover. That seems to be like the strategy of like every single law case against Trump. Try to use the or to make it widespread. Yeah, they do all kinds of fucking war games like that. Let's see. Roberts explained that the general principles used to construe statutes. Sorry, I had to yawn. Jesus. Let me start over on that. Roberts explained that the general principles used to construe statutes instruct courts that, quote, a general phrase can be given a more focused meaning by the terms linked to it. Here, he continued, subsection C1 provides several specific examples of evidence tampering that the law prohibits, such as altering a record and concealing a document. When subsection C2 immediately follows those examples, he reasoned the most sensible inference is that the scope of C2 is limited by the examples in C1. Indeed, he noted that subsection C2 sweeps as broadly as the government posits. There would have been a scant reason for Congress to provide any specific examples at all in subsection C1. Yeah, exactly. Like, if C2 has no restriction, there's no point in listing, individual restrictions in C1. Roberts also pointed to the provision's history as additional support for the majority's interpretation. Until the Enron scandal, the statute only made it a crime to use intimidation or physical force or corruptly persuade someone else to shred documents. The statute did not, Roberts noted, create liability to the person who actually shredded the documents, leading Congress to enact Section 1512C to, quote, plug this loophole. It would be peculiar to conclude that this closing the Enron gap, Congress actually hid away in the second part of the third subsection of Section 1512, a catch-all provision that reaches far beyond the document shredding in similar scenarios that prompted the legislation in the first place. That was a mouthful. I kind of want to get down. Okay, so that's Roberts. Ketanji Brown joined Roberts. Wow. The diversity hire joined Roberts. What's her reasoning? Despite the shocking circumstances involved in this case or the government's determination that they warrant prosecution, today this court's task is to determine what conduct is prescribed by the criminal statute that has been invoked as the basis for the obstruction charge at issue here. Jackson suggested that it beggars belief that Congress would have inserted a breathtakingly broad, first-of-its-kind criminal obstruction statute, accompanied by a substantial 20-year maximum penalty, in the midst of a significantly more granular series of obstruction prohibitions without clarifying its intent to do so. Jackson also made it clear that, at least in her view, the charges against Fisher could still go forward. He was charged, he stressed, with corruptly obstructing a proceeding before Congress, specifically Congress's certification of the Electoral College vote, which uses records and documents. If Jackson posited the conduct at the center of the charges against Fisher involved the impairment or the attempted impairment of the availability and integrity of things used during the January 6th proceeding, then the charges against him can go forward. And then Coney Barrett dissented. Wow, fucking turncoat. Let's see. Merrick Garland was disappointed, but who gives a fuck about him? Wow. And also, compounding onto Ketanji Brown Jackson, like, if it has this clause, this clause is there, like, if it's meant to be used in such a broad way, then why haven't we seen it used in a broad way up until this point? You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna basically extend the dragnet that the law is meant to hit, why hasn't it hit any of those anything within that enlarged dragnet up until this point? So it seems like people are basically up until this point have been thinking that it applies to that very narrow set. Otherwise, it would have been open season on a ton of shit before this ever happened. You know? Yeah, Cont'd and Barrett swapped. That's interesting. Joined by Sotomayor. Okay. Interesting. So that's what. Hopefully that decision snowballs or dominoes, I should say. I think dominoes is the better analogy there, and that it kind of, or not kind of. It first of all, it frees hundreds of those other fucking J6 defendants, and also helps Trump. Hopefully it happens fast. It needs to happen fast. Let's see what else. Stuff about homeless people. Oh, Chevron. I want to do Chevron. Okay. Supreme Court strikes down Chevron. Fucking finally. Curtailing power of federal agencies. This is basically the thing that, like, that the feds were able to just, like, claim, just any kind of shit, and it would stick. This was the thing that let them do that. Like, this really reins in the feds here, which is fucking finally. In a major ruling, damn right it is, the Supreme Court on Friday cut back sharply on the power of federal agencies to interpret the laws they administer. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like self-interpretation of laws. That's like the whole thing. It's like we can just, oh, there's this law. We meant it to cover the exact same that you're doing, so you're fucked. Fuck you. Like, it's such bullshit. It's such a conflict of interest bullshit thing. To interpret laws they administer and rule that courts should rely on their own interpretation of ambiguous laws. The decision will likely have far-reaching effects across the country, from environmental regulation to healthcare costs. Yes. By a vote of 6-3 again, the justice overruled the landmark 1984 decision, Chevron versus Natural Resources Defense Council, which gave rise to the doctrine known as the Chevron Doctrine. Under that doctrine, if Congress has not directly addressed the question at the center of a dispute, the court was required to uphold the agency's interpretation of the statute as long as it was reasonable. But in a 35-page ruling by Chief Justice John Roberts, the justices rejected that doctrine, calling it fundamentally misguided. Based. It is fundamentally misguided. It's not retroactive. Yeah, that's so... countless people have been fucked over by the Chevron doctrine. And yeah, I doubt it. It's not retroactive. I doubt it, at least. Let's see here. Kagan dissented in an opinion joined by Justices Sotomayor and Taj and Brand. Okay, so this was a party line one. The Supreme Court first issued the decision in the Chevron case more than 40 years ago. The decision was not necessarily regarded as a particularly consequential one, but in the years since then, it became one of the most important rulings on federal administrative law, cited by federal courts more than 18,000 times. Yeah, and it's bullshit. Held up the Reagan-era EPA interpretation of the Clean Air Act, generally hailed by conservatives at the time. And there was a lot of dumb shit that was hailed by conservatives during the 80s. I swear to God, as the more and more I learn about Reagan, the more and more I'm like, not a big fan. The justices who took up their appeals agreeing to address only the Chevron question of Relentless versus Department of Commerce and Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo. Jackson dissented in the Relentless case, but was recused from the Loper Bright case, presumably because she had heard oral argument in the case while she was still a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Chevron deference, Roberts explained in his opinion for the court on Friday, is inconsistent with the Administrative Procedure Act, a federal law that sets out the procedures that federal agencies must follow, as well as instructions for courts to review actions by those agencies. The APA directs courts to decide legal questions by applying their own judgment and therefore makes clear that agency interpretations of statutes, like agency interpretations of the Constitution, are not entitled to deference under the APA. It thus remains the responsibility of the court to decide whether the law means what the agency says. Yeah, so not the agency. That's the whole point. The whole thing is just it's just a fundamentally flawed conflict of interest scheme. So, should have been made a law by Congress if it was going to be cited that much. Oh yeah, it's one of those things that the people at the time didn't consider how it would be abused and went with it to pursue those doing wrong. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it was definitely like an out of the frying pan into the fryer kind of scenario back then. But it has been made very, very clear that it was a bad move. Okay, so Roberts. This was a party line one. It looks like. What did the dissent? Oh, what did Thomas say? Thomas penned a brief concurring opinion in which he emphasized that Chevron doctrine was inconsistent not only with the APA but also with the Constitution's division of power among the three branches of government. The Chevron doctrine, he argued, requires judges to give up their constitutional power to exercise their independent judgment, and it allows the executive branch to exercise powers not given to it. Yeah, exactly. It's a conflict of interest. Gorsuch filed the longer concurring opinion. Wow, 33-page concurring opinion. Tombstone on the Chevron, no one can miss. Interpreted the guided federal courts since the nation's founding. Downplay the impact of Friday's ruling, contending that all today's decision means is that going forward, federal courts will do exactly as this court has since 2016, exactly as it did before the mid-1980s, and exactly as it had done since the founding, resolve cases and controversies without any systemic bias in the government's favor. Damn right. Yeah, that's great. Okay. I'm kind of already tired of Supreme Court shit. Let's do that one. Brave thing. We need to scroll up. I want to do one more, and then I want to do the puppy rescue one. That'll wrap it up. It's gotta be a fun one in here. Oh. I don't want to do that one. I kind of want to. I want to bring the mood back up again. Actually, so I kind of want to do. I don't really have a lot though. Oh, this one's kind of funny. It's dumb, but it's yeah. We'll do this one, then we'll do the puppy one. Here we go. I get off on legal shit. I mean, I could take legal shit in small doses. That's where I'm at with legal stuff. Like, I do find it interesting, but not like a lot at a time. You know what I mean? I can only take a little bit at a time. So, anyway, I want to do this one. High school DEI office accuses students of, quote, white supremacy over senior gift of Thor mural in Washington State. They had an issue with a mural promoting, quote, pure colonization, white power, white supremacy, and even going as far as to say that it was alluding to racist and anti-black imagery in the South. Eat shit and die. You print out all the documents and roll in them. Oh my gosh. Student council members at a Washington State high school. I mean, student council? Even when I was in high school, I thought that student council was a fucking cringe. Like, who gives a fuck about student council? Let's see. We're accused of promoting white supremacy after proposing a mural of the school's unofficial mascot, the hammer-wielding Norse god Thor, be painted as their senior gift. The school's district's DEI office, God, the district itself has its own DEI office. What a grift. Raised concerns that the painting represents white supremacy and would need to be accompanied by women and people of color to meet the Evergreen Public School District's racial and gender equity standards. Fuck you and your equity. God. Clarissa Hightower is the Director of Equity and Inclusion at Evergreen Public Schools. A worthless person in a worthless position. Student counselors at Mountain View High School in Vancouver proposed the artwork because their school's mascot is the Thunders. And the name Thor translates to thunder. All true. There is already a statue of Thor at the school's main entrance, which added further confusion among the student body government. Nice. I wish I had... My high school mascot was a horse. Oh my god. Members of the council were summoned to appear before district staff, including the Equity Advancement Specialist. Oh my god, what? Equity Advancement fucking Specialist. What the fuck? What kind of job is that? What a bullshit, made up gobbledygook fucking position that is. Jeez, that makes absolutely no sense. They had an issue. You know what it is? It's one of those job titles that, like, it sounds like it does something, but it actually doesn't. So it kind of, like, it has one of those clever titles that it's like, you don't really know what they do. So they can always claim that they're getting things done, and they can justify their existence in that position. You know, the whole thing is just a fraud. They had an issue with the image not being racially and gender inclusive. It's impossible for any image of one person to be gender inclusive. What the fuck? That's it. If it's of one person, it has to be one or the other, and whichever one you choose, the other one won't be there. That, like, this is so fucking ridiculous. Apparently, according to them, you can't make a painting with only one person in it by this logic. What a stupid fucking council. They should all go. Well, not the council. The student council is fine. They're the base chads that were like, yeah, let's do Thor, and it's this district office that's being like twats about it, as well as upholding an image of pure colonization. What the fuck is colonizing about Thor on a mountain? What? Thor and Zeus must be black and gay and lame. Don't forget lame. Oh my god. So retarded. Hoping an image of pure colonization, white power. I mean, Thor is white and he is powerful. White supremacy. I mean, he is the god of Norse gods, and he's white. So, and even going as far as to say that it was alluding to racist and anti-black imagery in the South. What the fuck does the South have to do with this? What? Student council member Tara told KTTH. Tara said it was a very uncomfortable position for a bunch of high school students to be put in. Yeah, it's a struggle session. She doesn't know it, but that she got put into a struggle session, which is like, you're gonna sit here and you're gonna get accosted over everything you do until you admit you're wrong. You know, that's what she doesn't know it, but that's what happened. Look at this. Every DEI officer has the same smug, shit-eating, better than, holier than thou grin. God, I fucking hate it. I hate every one of these people so much. Councilmember Ava added that they were told that, quote, without context, our image could be taken the wrong way. How? It's obviously like a god with a thunder hammer on a mountain. What? How do you take that the wrong way? You have to, that's the thing. They say our image could be taken the wrong way. The only reason you can take that image the wrong way is if you did it on purpose. You can't accidentally take an image like that out of, the wrong way. You have to purposely read wrong things into it. And why would you placate to people who purposely misinterpret your shit? People who purposely misinterpret you don't deserve a second of your attention or care. So because that can be interpreted as a promotion of white supremacy. Honestly, all I want to be supreme over is people like this bitch. She said that counselors... Why is there a font change in this sentence? Why is this sentence like 2 point sizes smaller than the rest of the article? She said that counselors were told to be mindful that the image, despite it not being problematic, is something that could grow to be controversial, which means it is problematic. See, they said that despite it not being problematic, that's how they weasel their way in, is by qualifying their shit. It's like, well, they always start like, it is controversial, but they always start by saying, although it's not really controversial, it could become controversial. You know, that's how they weasel their words around. It's like, shut the fuck up. You're so full of shit. Student counselors use AI to create a timeless image of the deed. Oh, it's AI too! Based AI. Honestly, though, you know what this looks like? If this looked like propaganda for anything, to me, this looks like Mormon art. Like Mormon propaganda art. Like, have you seen like Mormon murals before? This is what they look like. Like, if you scroll down on this image, I would expect like pioneers in wagons, like panning for gold in the river valley and like building wood structures and shit. Like, this looks like Mormon mural art, if you've ever seen that. Let's see. They used AI to create a timeless image of the deity on a mountain, brandishing his hammer amidst lightning bolts. The school district then suggested removing the Thor god from the painting and keeping only the hammer and the mountain. I mean, that's bullshit. You want to know why? Because even if it was just a hammer and a mountain, they would have said, well, this could be interpreted as Thor, and thus can be interpreted as all the other bullshit that we claim. Like, there's nothing that, again, if you intend to purposefully wrongly interpret something, you're going to do it no matter what the thing is. Like, I can read anything into a piece of art that I want to, you know? And if I have malicious intent, I can read bad things into art, into any piece of art. I can read something bad into just a solid color of your choice. You know, if I wanted to, you just give me a few seconds. I'll figure out a way to read something bad into a solid color. So it's like, yeah, it's like that. So that whole thing is bullshit. Realistically, as a student, I'm walking down the hallway and I see this image up on the wall. That's not going to be the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah, exactly. We were just essentially told we will maybe understand their perspective when we're in our 40s and have more life experiences like they do. Hopefully they never have life experiences like they do, because their life experiences are self-contrived victimization. That's their life experience. I hope to God these high school kids never have the same life experiences that these fucking office dickheads, DEI dicks, have had. The school district then suggested that if they wanted to keep Thor in the painting, they would need to add people of color and women to the mural. You know what you do? You add people of color and women. Okay. Add a bunch of Asian women getting beat the fuck up by black dudes. Add that to the bottom of the mural. You did what you said. You said add people of color and women to the mural. Oh my god. That would be such an amazing troll. Oh my god. I legit want them to do that. I want them to do that just to see them lose their shit. Oh my gosh. The guy had a steel helmet. It could be Viking propaganda. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Don't give ground to those that are clearly not taking it in goodwill. Yeah, exactly. It's like they're clearly, again, what's the phrase? It got popular like a couple months ago. Like the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. Where it's like why you see like Greta Thunberg show up to Gays for Palestine protests and stuff like that. Where you crisscross all these leftist issues that are incoherent when they try to come together, because none of the issues actually matter for the sake of the issue itself. It's always just a means of fomenting discontent, distrust, instability, and just demoralization and stuff like that. That's the issue. And it's like, that I lost my train of thought. God damn it! I had a good train of thought and I just lost it. It just went away. Oh yeah, the taking good ground and goodwill. Yeah, it's just you never. You always want to be able to recognize when people aren't engaging in good faith, because anybody who isn't engaging in good faith, once you realize that, all you got to do is frame it in the terms of like, oh, they're not trying to win over this argument or this or that. They're just trying to get power. That's essentially the basis behind every bad faith attempt at literally everything, is that they don't care about the actual issue. They just want power. And so when you recognize that, like, that dichotomy, it actually becomes really quickly and easy to determine when somebody is acting in bad faith. It's like, oh, you don't actually care about the issue, you just want power. That means that that's it's like, oh, this is bad faith approach right here. And the moment somebody is acting in bad faith, you can disregard everything they do and say, because they're just trying to get power over you. And anyone who's trying to get power over you, you can tell them to fuck off. And you don't need any moral or ethical or otherwise justification for telling a bad faith actor trying to get power over you to fuck off. You can just tell them to fuck off, and that suffices. It was very obvious that if we put something like that up, it would be obvious to the entire student body and anyone that knows anything about Mountain View that it was just to fulfill a diversity quota. Again, show a bunch of black dudes beating the fuck out of Asian women. You will have met you all have properly sacrificed, made a proper sacrifice to the gods of DEI, and they will lose their shit over that. You see the Tucker Carlson clip with this Australian? Yes. He absolutely tore that reporter to shreds. It was beautiful. Added the Tucker Carlson bit in reaction video suggestions. Ooh. What time is it? We do that now? Because I think that dovetails really well into the bad faith discussion that we're having right now. I think that'd be a good thing to react to. Well, let's do that, and then we'll do the puppy rescue. Okay, there it is. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, it's not too long, too. It's only 7.5 minutes. Is this... Okay, so the Sky News reporters are commentating about the exchange. Okay, we can kind of skip the actual reporting and just focus just on the Tucker Carlson bits. Okay, skip through the first minute until the talking heads go away. Okay, let me bring it up. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be formatted correctly on my screen. Yeah. Wrong button. Go. Yep. 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 There we go. There's our boy Tucker. I haven't watched Tucker in a bit. It's good to see him again. All right. Let's watch Tucker. Tucker has always been extremely good at recognizing and calling out bad faith actors. He's always been really, really good at that. And this is like a textbook example of his skill at doing that. Uninterrupted conversation at 2:30. Okay, 2:30. Okay. All right, here we go.
In the past, you've talked about how white Australians, Americans, Europeans are being replaced by non-white immigrants in what is often referred to as the Great Replacement Theory. This is.
It's not a theory, though, is it? I mean, it's the Democrats' platform. It's the globalist platform. And the thing is, replacement is kind of a misnomer. It's not necessarily replacement as much as it is dilution. It's the great dilution theory, where it's like, even if the population of whites stayed exactly the same, if you just flood that population with non-whites, then you dilute, the population, the white population. So it's not really a replacement so much as it is dilution.
Have I said that whites are being replaced?
Well,
I don't think I said that.
Well, it's been mentioned on your show 4,000 times. And
really, when did I say that?
Well, Westerners are being replaced.
I said whites are being replaced.
You have said that before.
Really?
Yeah.
I would challenge you to cite that, because I'm pretty sure I haven't said that. I said native-born Americans are being replaced, including blacks.
Native-born Americans.
Native-born Americans.
And
Americans who, like black Americans, African Americans have been in the United States for, in many cases, their families over 400 years. And their concerns are every bit as real and valid and alive to me as the concerns of white people whose families have been there 400 years. So I've never said that whites are being replaced. Not one time. And you can't cite it.
Untrue.
So we just met, but when our relationship starts with a lie, it makes it tough to be friends. So
you've been lying
let's
about
pull that back. I'm happy to explain what I do think.
So.
Well, you actually can't say it because I didn't say it, and I don't believe it. And I'm telling you that to your face, so why don't you just accept me at face value? My concern is that the people who are born in the country are the main responsibility of its leaders. And as noted earlier, when those leaders shift their concern from the people whose responsibility it is to take care of to people around the world to put their priorities above that of their own citizens, that's immoral. And they are being replaced in my country, people who are born in the United States. And the birth rate tells the whole story. They are not at replacement rate. And so the U.S. population is growing because we're importing people from other countries. And my view is that happy people have children. And a functioning economy allows them to do that. And we don't have that. And so you need to fix the economy and fix the culture and make it so that people who want to have kids can. You don't just go for the quick sugar fix of importing new people. Like, that's my position. And if you think that's racist, that's your problem.
I never called you a racist.
It's interesting. Number one, I don't know how he manages to just not just scream at a reporter to just shut the absolute fuck up. Like, how he doesn't swear during these kinds of exchanges is like a remarkable level of restraint that I just do not have. I would be like, shut the app. I would be swearing a storm at this woman. You know what I mean? But the thing is, it's like, that's why I'm not good at it, because that's her goal. Her goal is to elicit that kind of reaction, and I'm pretty damn sure that I would not be able to fall into that trap. So good on Tucker for being able to like keep his cool and that kind of stuff towards these kinds of people. But it's interesting, like it's everything he's saying. It's like, how is it controversial? Like, it's so clearly obvious that that's what's happening. That's literally like the globalist agenda. It's like that no nations, no borders. It's just that the global monoculture, where like everywhere you go is just like a mishmash of all the different cultures into one just cultural soup. But then it's like, well, if it's the same everywhere you go around the world, then why would you go anywhere? Which is kind of the point. This is like, it goes. I'm tinfoil hatting a little bit here, but I actually think that that's part of like the eat the bugs, live in the pod kind of shit. Where it's just like, well, if we make everywhere around the planet exactly the same, then there's nothing new to experience by going anywhere other than where you are. So you have no motivation or need to go anywhere. Thus, you're not going to be polluting and destroying Gaia as much. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. Like, what's Aristotle? The famous quote from Aristotle that it's like it is the tyrant who prefers the company of foreigners over their own people, because their own people will hold them to account, where a foreigner will basically won't. So, tyrants engage in traitorous behavior and favoritism towards foreigners, and anyone who betrays their native population for foreigners is a tyrant by nature. That's like very base Aristotelian quote. Not a quote. I'm paraphrasing him. He also abused the American melting pot analogy. The melting pot is a lie, by the way. But what about all these people coming? Don't they deserve a place? It's like, no, honestly. Because that's the thing. He mentioned the birth rate, right? He mentioned the birth rate. He said, like, well, we're not able to reproduce ourselves. We're just importing the third world to make up for that. It's like, but the thing is that, like, that still doesn't fix the birth rate. Because, like, if you're importing people out of the third world, that means that you're asking the third world to not only maintain their own birth rate, but also make up for ours. And guess what? The third world, even with their higher birth rates, can't do that. So the birth rate is still fucked under that strategy. And all you're doing is you're just supplanting a native culture with a foreign culture. Because, again, melting pot is bullshit. That's a quote. Aristotle speaks some good modern English. You know what I mean? Like that. I was paraphrasing Tuxedo. Yeah, Aristotle, like he basically said that, like, you could tell that somebody's a tyrant because they'll favor foreigners over natives, basically. But anyway, yeah. So the birth rate thing, yeah, it doesn't work. And the thing is that the people who immigrate outside of it costs money to leave your home country and go and live in a new country. It costs a lot of money, and so we'll just import immigrants. You have to realize that if you're importing immigrants, you're importing the better immigrants, and even then, they're not necessarily going to, like, do well in America. And you're just brain draining the countries that they're coming from. So you're just, like, leaving all these other countries that are importing their people into our countries with a bunch of idiots who can't support the economy and who are being asked to support the birth rate, or to maintain a birth rate that supports both themselves and the population of the countries that, sucking the brains out of that country. It's like, this is a no-win scenario for everyone involved. What's that famous? There's a famous. Oh man, let me look it up. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's worth just flat out watching. It's an incredibly powerful video. Let me bring it up here. Here. Find it. There it is. Yes. This is probably one of the most powerful videos you could possibly watch that tackles the concept of brain drain and immigration into the West, and why it's bad for literally everybody.
Some people say that mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990.
You have to remember that this was done 7 years ago. That average is now, I think, 1.5 million or more. I think it's actually more than, it might be more than 2 million now. It's insane, especially since Biden took office, when Well, no, he's talking about legal immigrants. So yeah, the legal immigrants I think is up to like 1.5 now. But this is like probably the most powerful video that you could ever show somebody who's a proponent of like mass immigration.
Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2
Also, hey, bro.
a day.
How you doing?
And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? We'll start with Africa. In Africa alone,
I hope we don't get
there are
copyrighting for this.
650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India, another 890 million people desperately poor. China adds another 480 million people making less than $2 a day.
The crowd reactions.
Unfortunately, the rest
amazing.
of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world. 3 billion people.
It's like what, 40%
who are
of the
desperately
global
poor,
population?
making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course, we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we?
Right.
These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected
It costs money to
make
move.
it here as immigrants. We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world.
We brain drain.
And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people.
Jeez.
5.6 billion people in the world.
Like 80%? That's like 80% of the population of the world.
Who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources.
Look how triggered they're getting.
Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double our immigration to 2 million a year.
Hell, add all of the illegal immigrants. Add 3 million
which would totally overwhelm our
and
physical, natural, and social infrastructures.
Nothing in the grand scheme of things.
We couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change to improve the lot of all the people in these countries.
Do you see in those,
the true heroes
those
in the global humanitarian field
are
the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country, but instead stay in their countries to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen.
Yep.
The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another 1 million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, But we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries. Not in this century.
Get them shaking their
heads. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world. They have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for that. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
And it doesn't even mention like all of those immigrants, how much stress they put on all of the American cities. You know, like look at how black populations across America have like so rapidly turned against immigration because they finally are getting a taste of it for the first time. Meanwhile, like, you know, border states like Texas and Arizona have been suffering from this shit for years and years and years and years and years. You know, it's fucking insane. These people have, these decision makers have no goddamn perspective on what they're doing. All they're doing is just like, they're causing low trust societies to emerge. The cultural melting pot is a lie. It's more like, well, like this video, it's more like a jar of jelly beans where the edges, you know, the edges of the jelly beans, they rub against each other and they exchange colors a little bit, but for the most part, they stick to themselves. You know, that's why you get, you know, all these little cultural and racial enclaves all across American cities and all that kind of shit. It's why you get a massive Pakistani influx into Britain or France or Germany or whatever. They don't like, you know, dissolve into the population. No, they all create little Pakistani enclaves, you know, in whatever fucking city they're in, you know, that because that's what tribes do, you know, and it's like, I swear to God, this video that I just showed you guys is like the most powerful video I have ever seen against mass immigration. It's best to teach them to fish how they live. Yeah, it's best to teach people how to better, So when I was young, I was a baseball pitcher. I played on high school. I was varsity all 4 years. And I played for a shitty team that did not have good coaches. And I wanted to go to college to play baseball. And I knew that I wasn't going to get there using the coaches that I had. So what did I do? I went to the other coaches. I literally took pitching lessons from coaches from rival teams because I wanted to get good at pitching. Now, my coaches didn't really like me for doing that, but guess what? I was the best damn pitcher on the team, and they would start me against the teams who had the coaches that taught me how to pitch, because they knew I was the best. And that's the thing. Like, it was very much like a brain drain kind of situation. You know what I mean? But I didn't go to my rivals' teams. I stayed on my team. And guess what? Even though I learned how to pitch from rival coaches, I would still beat those teams. You know, because I stayed with the team I was on and I helped the team, you know, that I was on. And I didn't go to one of these better hoity-toity schools with hoity-toity coaches and better teams and stuff like that. I didn't do that. I learned from them, but I stayed, you know, the analogy is, it's like I stayed in my home country and I used my skills to help my countrymen, help my team, you know, and it's just like, that's the mentality which should be encouraging in in these like third and second world populations. It's like, I have no problem with them like coming to like America or Britain or whatever to learn like how to be a doctor in our schools or something like that. But they should have a thing where like, if you come here from you know, any of these countries, you know, and they'll be listed out, and you know, and you get a degree from us, you have to spend a certain amount of time, or maybe or just say you can't practice medicine in this country. You have to go back to your country and help the people and help your actual countrymen. You know what I mean? Like that's good, because ideally, you get a bunch of people like that back in the home country, and then guess what? They make the country way better, and then no one has to immigrate. Heh, who'd have thunk it? Yeah, it's best to teach them how to fish where they live. Anyway, let me go back to this Tucker meltdown or takedown.
But of course you are suggesting, and
Well,
I must say one of the reasons people don't like people like you in the media is that you never say exactly what you mean. Your slurs are all by implication, and you're about to tell me the great replacement theory is racist or anti-Semitic, whatever. The whole point of your question was to be like, you're a scary racist.
Well, I haven't.
And my response is, no, I'm not. Okay, well, how about no more lying in your questions, and then I'll answer it.
Okay, well, this is the same theory, or as you say, idea, that has inspired the New York Buffalo shooting where 11 black Americans were killed. Two
You know what
white
I mean?
Americans were killed.
Like,
It's also inspired.
It's not. First of all,
It's inspired the worst, one of the worst Australian guys
how do they
of all
get
time
people
to
this
shoot
stupid in the media? I guess it doesn't pay well. Look, I'm sorry. I've lived among people like you for too long, and I don't mean to call you stupid. Maybe you're just pretending to be, but.
Oh dear,
is that it?
Kosher, if you're going to show up and make outrageous claims and try to...
Well, so you don't think you harbor any kind of responsibility for these hate crimes?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to be charitable. I was like, maybe you're just pretending to be dumb. Now I don't think it's an act.
That's the thing. That's right there. That's a recognition of a bad faith actor. Like, she's not trying to get to the truth of things. She's not trying to, ask a genuine question. She's just trying to engage in gotcha journalism bullshit and yellow journalism to gain power over Tucker. And he recognizes that. And he just says, like I said before, anybody who you recognize as being engaging in bad faith, you can just tell them to fuck off. You don't need to justify it in any way. You can just tell them to fuck off. And that's what Tucker's doing. He's just like, no, you're just a fucking idiot. Go away. You're a bad faith actor. You can fuck off. Tucker's brilliant at doing this.
Tucker, thank you for taking those questions. I'm sure you enjoyed
Actually, I loved it. I just feel sorry. I mean, because I got here and the country's so unbelievably beautiful and the people are so cheerful and funny and cool and smart. I'm like, your media's got to be better than ours. It can't just be a bunch of castrated robots reading questions from the boss. And then it turns out it's exactly the same, maybe even a tiny bit dumber.
Sky News Australia is a mainstream news station, by the way. They're like one of the very, very few mainstream news stations that's like super based. So, oh man. Okay. One last thing. I've been teasing it for like 6 stories now, but we're gonna actually do it. What the hell is on my screen? Go away. Where is it? It's up a little bit further, isn't it? Up above the Supreme Court cases. There it is. There it is. God, I gotta. Okay. Fishermen in Mississippi pull off dramatic rescue of 38 dogs treading water. 2 anglers and their fishing guide heard barking from a distance while fishing in Mississippi's Grenada Lake. What started as a day... Oh, I don't... These embedded videos follow you up. What started as a day on the water with a friend turned into a full-on rescue mission of 38 dogs. Bob Gist, 61, a State Farm agent in Arkansas, decided to go on a fishing trip with his friend Bob Carlson, a State Farm agent in Tennessee. After not seeing each other for a while, Gist told Fox News Digital. The 2 men headed to Grenada Lake in Mississippi and got in touch with Jordan Crestman, a local fishing guide, who led them out onto the water. After fishing in the early morning hours and not finding much luck, the group moved to a different location. Look at that. A lot of them are like... Hard to tell what kind of... Oh, here we go. These are beagles, aren't they? At least that one is. That one is. Those 2 aren't beagles, I think. This one, judging by the tail, this is probably a beagle too. Right here. We go about half a mile on a half a mile or so from where we were to another place. We start fishing, and pretty soon we can hear some dogs barking. Pretty soon we saw some dogs on the horizon in the water. The dogs were a part of an annual fox run that takes place in the area, just said, as he learned after the encounter. Cressman noticed a deer in the water, and the group of dogs were attempting to chase the animal. We went on fishing for about 10 or 15 more minutes, and Jordan Cressman said, "Hey guys, if you don't mind, we really need to go check on those dogs because they're way out there in the water," he said. Justin Carlson had Cressman lead them over to the pups. Once the boat arrived on the scene, the three men were left stunned. We're just flabbergasted because it's dogs everywhere, and they're all going in different directions because they can no longer see the bank on either side. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, like, I dogged it in the water, and they could tread water for a while, but they tend to go in circles. They're not really good at, like, finding the edge and, like, getting out of the water. So if they're out in the middle of the lake, they're fucked. They don't know how to just swim in one direction. And they're all hunting dogs. We can clearly see that because they have expensive GPS radio collars on them. Without hesitation, the men took the dogs onto the boat so they wouldn't drown. We just immediately started calling dogs on the boat, grabbed their collar and put them in the boat. The three fishermen grabbed as many dogs as they could and fit them on the boat before running out of room. Cressman managed to gather 25 to 27 dogs, making sure none of the pups attempted to jump back into the water. Which they'll do. Like, that's the thing. Like, hunting dogs, these hounds and stuff like bloodhounds, beagles, stuff like that, they have no fear of water. They don't. They will jump into water enthusiastically. A lot of them are trained to dive as well. So, I know I had a beagle, and we trained our beagle to be able to dive in our pool. He could dive. Man, he could dive probably 3 feet down before he had to come back up. These hound dogs fucking love water. After rescuing the second group of dogs, one man on land told Gist and the others that he had GPS trackers for the dogs and asked if he could join the rescue. The tracker led the other men to an additional group of 3 to 4 dogs who were estimated to be further than a mile from the bank. They were on the verge of drowning because now they had been treading water for an hour. Ah, God, they're good at treading water. They just don't know where to go. We got back over to the ramp with that last bunch of dogs. And we were having to drag them out of the boat because they didn't want to get out of our boat. They were scared they were going back to the water. It was terrible. The owner of the dogs tried to pay Cressman, but he refused to take the reward. Gist has labeled Cressman a true hero of the dog rescue. If Brad and I had been there in a boat by ourselves, wouldn't have known anything was wrong. But that 20-something-year-old kid, I'm 61, so I'm calling him a kid. Yeah, fair enough. I call him a kid, and I'm only in my 40s. He knew something needed to be done. That kid had the presence of mind to know if we don't do something, there's going to be 38 dead dogs here. Well, he didn't know 38. He said a lot. And he saved them. I mean, we pulled them all in, but that kid is the hero here. He just said that while he gives full credit to Cressman, he is grateful to have assisted in the mission to bring the animals to safety. Isn't that sweet? You know that beagles are, they're like the nicest and trusting of like all dog breeds, which is why they're commonly used in like lab experimentations and shit. It's really, there's like beagle rescue programs out there that are designed specifically to rescue beagles from animal testing facilities and stuff like that. Because they're like easily the most common breed of dog that's used in those facilities because they're so trusting and loyal and everything. It's really fucking sad. I owned a beagle, the only purebred dog I've ever owned, and as incredibly fun as that dog was, I don't want to ever own a purebred again. They're a different, they're built different than mutts, I prefer mutts. But anyway, 38 dogs get to live another day. Hooray. I think we're gonna end it with that one. Just a fun little a feel-good story at the end here. Where am I? Go there. And I need to do that. Oh man, so we kept it. Managed to get it to less than 5 hours, even with the interruption in the middle of it. That's gonna be a pain in the ass to deal with, by the way. Oh man, because I have to go through and do chapters and citations and stuff like that. And doing that across 2 videos is gonna suck. But anyway, next weekend, or next week I should say, we're back to normal. We're back to our normal 4 streams a week schedule. We're gonna get back into Final Fantasy on Tuesday. We're basically just continuing all the playthroughs that we've been doing. So Final Fantasy Tuesday, Yakuza 4 on Wednesday, and Black Flag on Friday. And then Saturday is the big Pride Month post-mortem stream. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Bring some alcohol, you're probably gonna need it. Oh man. But anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you guys. I guess I'll see you on the next one. Watch as yours, chat. Take care.